Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking the Riverdale episode, American Dreams. Sorry this one did take a little long to get put out. Just after the episode aired, I hadn't quite gotten around to watching it. I got some news that my grandfather was in the hospital. He's 85 years old, so that was exceptionally worrisome for me. So was pretty distracted for a couple of days. Fortunately, he actually, I called him on the phone. I talked to him after they did some procedures on him, and he sounded really good, and he's taking it easy at home now. So that was definitely a huge weight off of my mind. And yeah, so hopefully we can kind of try to keep the schedule on track properly from now until the end of the season. Anyway, let's get into it. So, this episode, again, nice and solid, but there's definitely some things here that I'm not feeling so great about. I think the worst one was just the whole thing with Cheryl. Again, she's just being immensely controlling and shows that, and Tony even pointed out to her, like, sort of like, this kind of like this leading the poisons, that kind of feels like that's the one thing that is supposed to be in theory totally Tony's thing, and Cheryl keeps interfering, and she doesn't really have any space. She doesn't really have very much that is uniquely hers. And Cheryl, with her control freak tendencies, this goes pretty badly. And just that whole scene with her and Kevin, it was just like just ordering Kevin around like he's some sort of a lackey. I mean, come on, Cheryl, that's not cool. On the other hand, given his recent antics with Betty and the cult, I'm not feeling especially sympathetic towards Kevin here, but still, Cheryl was really treating the poor guy like dirt. So even though he was a dick to Betty last week, I still felt kind of bad for him. Still, points to Cheryl for being up on her 80s classic movies. Heather's is, whoo boy, that's one of the high school movies of the 80s. I don't think I've seen it, but I know a decent bit about it, and she is correct. There's a stage play, a musical of it. It's usually considered one of the darkest high school movies of the '80s, and for good reason. So yeah, cool there. Let's see. The whole thing with resolving the Red Paladin thing, that was quite unique, but very interesting. And I just sort of loved it. It looked like Archie was having a boxing match with like a bunch of LARPers, which, okay, to be fair, that's actually what he was having. I was just watching all this. It's like, dude, really? You're going to try to go into a boxing match while dressed like Robin Hood? Um, Weird. Very weird. But still, nonetheless, it was nice to see Archie kind of get that monkey off his back. But him accepting a gift from Hiram, oh, that's going to end badly. That is going to end badly. Hiram is not a guy that really abides by truces any more than he has to. Okay, Archie now has this abandoned gym in the middle of nowhere, in part of town. Tell me Hiram does not have some sort of a plan to turn that against Archie. I'm just imagining he's going to send one of his little goons over there, plant some drugs, tip off the cops, and then force FP into arresting his son's best friend, or somebody else. This is going to accepting that is going to blow up in Archie's face in some way. There's just no two ways about it. And I did like that Archie was pretty reasonable with Hiram the whole time. It shows that he's perhaps maturing and thinking things through a little bit more as as a character. And if you it kind of occurs to you, if Hiram picked up on that, if he kind of realized, like, you know what, Archie has actually gotten a little bit smarter. Well, Archie's the kind of guy who will abide by that truce. But Hiram doesn't like smart people with strong morals floating around Riverdale. People like that, again, truce or not, are just waiting. They're landmines. In some way, they're going to cause him trouble down the road. And Archie, in many ways, has already caused Hiram a lot of trouble. So yeah, this has got to be in some way a trap. Also, just going back to the Cheryl Tony thing. One, I like that we got to briefly see the painting of Veronica again. I am positive that's going to be important. The scene there in the club with Tony and Cheryl. Very, very hot, but also one of the reasons why I never watch this show on my phone in public or on my tablet or anything like that. It's just not good for that. Let's see then. So the whole Veronica and Reggie thing. I also thought this was well done because both of them make some pretty good points. Reggie is like, you know what? Nobody recently has had your back as much as I do. I think I deserve to be respected as a full-fledged partner here. And Veronica says, like, look, Reggie, I value a lot, but I'm the captain around here, and that's just how it has to be. And both of them make good points. I do, at the end of the day, kind of come down a little bit more on Reggie's side. But he did, during the course of the story, say to Veronica, like, you owe me. And in relationships, any kind of healthy relationship, people should never say that to each other. That relationships are built on sharing, not owing each other things. Now, I don't think Reggie really meant anything bad by that. It really, to him, from his point of view, that Veronica was definitely doing a lot more take than give. And for all that he had done, wasn't really seeing him with the respect he thought he deserved. And that's a legitimate criticism I think you could level at her. But the way he phrased it, and the whole thing with trying to steal Gladys's car, that really hurt him. So, yeah. I kind of think that Veronica does owe Reggie more respect. But the way that Reggie was putting it, no, it can't be like that with a relationship. Yes, I think Veronica was sort of viewing Reggie as an employee a little too much, where he had genuinely earned more respect from her than she was giving. But again, trying to leverage that in terms of their personal relationship, no, that was not good. That was not cool, Reggie. Really liked Jughead finding out the truth about his mom. And, she made the same argument I actually heard, basically like El Chapo made in like an article I read about him, where he said, like, basically, like, all the things I've done to take care of my family. And I've never been very sympathetic to that point of view. And it comes down to a line I heard, I'm pretty sure it was in this Danish movie called A Hijacking. And it basically goes along the lines of, people who do terrible, desperate people who do terrible things are still people who do terrible things. just because you do something because you're desperate doesn't mean that it's okay. And at what point do you stop? I mean, where are you doing, like, okay, my family is sufficiently taken care of, I can stop doing terrible things. And sort of like, I'd like a Ferrari for my kids, so off to do more terrible things. Never mind the fact that there are plenty of people out there who are experience utterly grinding poverty and don't have to resort to peddling drugs to get by. So yeah, screw Gladys. She's self-justifying. Loved Jughead's speech to his dad, and like FP's comment about how, like, yeah, I never even thought I'd live to see 50. I figured I'd be dead, or I've got myself killed or drank myself to death like my father did. That was powerful stuff. And then that bit at the end with Betty and Jughead sort of like, okay, let's team up to run Gladys out of town. Cool. Betty, while you're being honest with Jughead, maybe you should be cluing him into what's going on with the cult blackmailing you. Because that actually does involve his father, too. And anyway, this is one of the things that's an example of what I think there is really good storytelling. And it's when the heroes get proactive. I've been listening to the Writing Excuses podcast recently, which is a fantastic podcast. And watching YouTube videos of one of the people from that, Brandon Sanderson, talking about what makes good writing. Because writing is something I've had an interest for a long time, and with me here kind of serving as a critic, understanding what works and what doesn't work in stories is very helpful to me. And one of the things that I saw actually just today, they were talking about how in most stories it's actually the villains who are proactive. They're the ones who go out and do stuff. And it's usually the heroes who just react to that, like Loki in the first Avengers movie. He was going around, he was doing stuff, he was taking actions to try and get what he wanted. Meanwhile, Thor mostly just wanted to like hang out with his buddies and hit stuff with a hammer. And yet Thor is the hero of the movie. And that's, I mean, the way it is not necessarily bad. But it has been pointed out, especially in superhero comics, that the heroes are usually the reactive ones. They're like firemen putting out emergencies caused by the villains. But what I think is really interesting is when the heroes sort of stop and they're like, okay, we're not just going to be content with dealing with this situation now. We're going to take some steps to just sort of genuinely put an end to this once and for all. Okay, well, we're going to run Jughead's mom out of town. We're going to do something about this cult that's brainwashing people. We're going to once and for all get rid of send Hiram off to jail. Okay, only one of those things is in the works right now, but we'll see. I have a feeling that things are going to get pretty darn crazy. I don't know if we're going to be able to resolve all of those. In fact, it wouldn't really surprise me if, as long as the farm and the cult has been floating around, if they didn't kind of keep them around to be the big villains of Season 4, because we haven't even met Edgar Never Ever. I think they're kind of pulling a Hiram on us, where he's going to be off-screen for the entire season, and then in the next season, he's introduced, and then we get an actor and all that, because I haven't heard about anybody being cast to play him. But maybe I just missed something. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe, and of course, follow me on Twitter. Who's Your Jedi? Until next time, take care and have a good one.